Okay, so when we think about the election of 1824, the essential thing to think about is that it's a response to the sectional breakdown after the Era of Good Feelings. Right? The Era of Good Feelings was a period in which there was only one political party. As a consequence, James Monroe was elected in 1820 in a landslide, but by 1824, there's starting to be sectional realignment. And as a consequence, we have four candidates. A candidate representing the North, John Quincy Adams, a candidate representing the West, Henry Clay, one representing the South, William Crawford, and then one national candidate, the war hero, Andrew Jackson. And Jackson was the only one of the four candidates that was able to really poll significant numbers outside of his section. But as a consequence of having four candidates, we have no one with a majority. Instead, we have Andrew Jackson winning a plurality. A plurality is when you have more than everybody else, but less than 50%. And thanks to the 12th Amendment to the Constitution, there's now a process in place for dealing with this situation. So what happens if a plurality takes place, the election is thrown into the House of Representatives, but only the top three candidates find themselves in the House of Representatives. The lower ones are eliminated. So in this case, Henry Clay was eliminated from the contest, with Crawford, Adams, and Jackson being thrown into the House of Representatives. Now, around this time, Crawford had a paralytic stroke, so his political career was significantly limited by his health. As a consequence, the issue in the House of Representatives was between John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson. At this point, Henry Clay becomes a really important figure because he was an essential congressman and had quite a lot of political pull within the House of Representatives. So what he did was he encouraged his colleagues in the House to support John Quincy Adams. And they did, and as a consequence, John Quincy Adams became the president. This made Andrew Jackson extremely angry, and he declared this to be a corrupt bargain because John Quincy Adams became president and he made Henry Clay his Secretary of State. This to Jackson seemed like a political tit for tat, the very sort of favoritism that as a future Democrat he would pledge to oppose. But the reality is that John Quincy Adams and Henry Clay had a tremendous amount in common. Quincy Adams had been building infrastructure at a very rapid rate. He was very into the kind of development that would later come during the 4 years of his presidency. So with John Quincy Adams as president and Henry Clay as Secretary of State, we actually see a manifestation of the American system. And thus you could say that Clay really supports Adams for political purposes, his own agenda for the nation, not for his own selfish or corrupt purposes. Nonetheless, Andrew Jackson's loss was a huge motivator to return to Tennessee and work with his ally in the North, Martin Van Buren, to build a challenge to John Quincy Adams, and that challenge becomes known as the Democratic Party.